We're going to be going live in, I don't know, just about 30 seconds or so. Just wanted to say hi before we get started here. If you're out there, give me a hi. Say where you from, what are you doing, how's everything going? And I'm going to be trying something new today, so I hope it isn't too clumsy. But, even if it is, it's always going to be fun. Have a good topic today. Going to start right on time. We're going to be starting at 9 a.m. Trying to make it work for all my global people. Okay, so we'll see if we can't get this to work. I am Jim Harrison, and essential oil strategist. Been doing this for about 20 years. Taught at a medical university. Have about 4 books out. Wrote for a lot of the spa magazines. Co-founded a plant-based skincare company, and I continue to formulate, producing products, and doing everything else essential oil related and plant-based related. So, okay, I'm ready. Let's get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just clean up my space a little bit here because I'm going to try this new presentation form. Check this out, okay? This is great. This is what I'm doing. Going to be talking about the Holistic Essential Oil Triad, which is a system that I developed. Well, I've been developing it over the years. It's been a long time, and I finally put it together as a system. And I'll talk about it a little bit more. I did introduce it in part 1. This is a 3-part series. This is part 3. And I introduced it in part 1, and then I showed how to do formulations based around it. And so today, I want to talk about how to do formulations, or not formulations, but to look at the olfactory system, because I am totally fascinated by the olfactory system. And the reason for that is because the olfactory system is totally fascinating. So I'm going to get into that, about sense of smell, science of smell. And what we'll do is we're going to look at scent as a therapeutic tool. This is something that is really becoming a lot more popular. We went through years of fragrance-free, which I always found interesting. At the university I taught at was Bastyr University, naturopathic and plant-based medical university here in the Seattle area. And as I walk in the door, there's a plaque. And on the plaque, it says, this is a fragrance-free zone, no perfumes, no essential oils. And I'm walking in there with, 2 suitcases full of essential oils. No one ever complained. Everyone loved it because fragrance-free actually doesn't exist. And I'll talk about that a little bit. And not so much that fragrance-free doesn't exist, but I'm going to talk about how scent is everywhere. And it's part of our survival. It's part of who we are in order to, just be maintaining balance in the world. Scent is a big part of that. As a therapist, scent can be a therapeutic tool. So scent shapes how we feel, how we act, and how we respond to our environment. And it's calming, it activates, it's motivating, or triggers. And when I say triggers, this is an example. Every memory, every emotion has a scent attachment. And you get that with the videos that go off in your head, right? When you smell something and, you have this memory, very vivid memory of, usually it's something in childhood, it's food that triggers, family dinners, whatever. I've known people who really love the smell of gasoline because they remember family trips. And as the family trips, they go pull in, you fill up the car with gas. And so that smell of gas triggers a happy, positive memory. Now, the other triggers can be negative. It was a woman in one of my talks. I mentioned this a lot because it's such a great example. And every time something with Rose went around the room, she would get up and leave. So it was beyond, I don't like that, pass it on. She had some form of anxiety that was being triggered. So who knows what the memory was? But it was very vivid, and it was an anxious memory. So some traumatic experience that she had as a child. Let's say she's 3 years old, and her parents take her, somewhere where weird stuff going on, a funeral or something like that. And at a funeral, she's right at the level of the roses, right? And so she feels anxious, and it's a strange environment. And so the relationship she has with the smell of rose is going to be that anxiety. So this could be anything. I mean, for memories, PTSD, a lot of, especially people who have been in the military, smell of gunpowder, not that gunpowder's everywhere in our environment, but there are certain smells that can trigger the PTSD. So as a therapist, when you're sharing any kind of scent, so, I'm talking about plants and I'm talking about essential oils. If you find someone, their body language shows some anxiety, there's a negative memory there. Now, you can overcome negative memories, but it's not really necessary. There's always a replacement. There's always another oil or another fragrance that you can choose. But these are the kind of things you want to pay attention to, because every memory, every emotion has a scent, and we want to create positive memories with the odors that we have in our business and that we're sharing with our guests. So another thing about fragrance, and as a therapeutic tool, is you can guide people's emotions, you can guide people's moods, and especially in a spa resort environment, you're creating a beautiful relaxation experience. And with that experience are all the scents that are in that environment. I do a lot with scent design and scent branding, but especially in scent design, where you control the aroma that is your business instead of letting it be random, because all your products have a fragrance, right? And all those products fill the air and create one overall scent that is your spa fragrance. You can control that through the right selection of the products that you're using, diffusing certain essential oils, but it's a harmony. You can't just diffuse and expect that to be the whole thing, because again, you have other products. And so it's a whole experience that you're creating here with scent design, and using it as a therapeutic tool. So, I mean, all through the services, you can use scent as a therapeutic tool. This is just a little bit of olfactory physiology, whatever you want to call it. One of the terms that are coming up a lot is neuroscience and neurobiology, which is the olfactory system. It's funny how this works, that, I've been working with scent, fragrance, because that's what essential oils are, of course. But I always used it, as I had talked about, as a therapeutic tool. But part of even my skincare, when I developed skincare, I developed that you have plant-based ingredients that have an aroma. And then you have the essential oils that have an aroma. And so when you control, just like I was talking about controlling the environment, the whole scent environment, your products, you can create to have these, what they're calling neurobiology effects, right? Because through the olfactory system, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with the central nervous system and the autonomic nervous system, along with the memory and emotion that I already mentioned. So the pathway, which I'm absolutely simplifying here, is the olfactory bulb. So first, when you smell, it's molecules going up your nose. It's the molecules, and I talk about this a lot with cell receptors, right? Lock and key. So the molecule is like a key. The receptor, the cell olfactory nerve endings at the top of the nasal passage are like a lock. If the key fits, it goes in, it turns it. And this is basically how odors are triggered. So it's not only what it smells like that goes through a certain part of the brain, the olfactory cortex, but it also is a trigger of what kind of response will it trigger through the limbic system, which is triggering the central nervous system, autonomic nervous system, memory, and emotion. Memory and emotion is the amygdala and hippocampus. Just in case you're wondering about the physiology of what's going on here, or the anatomy rather. Now, when you're smelling and it lock and key and it's triggering, it goes through the olfactory bulb and into the limbic system. I'm kind of bypassing talking about the piriform cortex, but we like to just phrase it as the limbic system. And through the limbic system, it's signaling and sending messages to the whole body. So there can be hormonal release, like serotonin, dopamine, GABA. All of these feel good or balancing neurotransmitters that are sent through the body. These are triggered through scent. So it's a reaction and an interaction that goes through the whole body. So this is the pathway from olfactory, nasal passage, the nerve endings into the olfactory bulb, in the limbic system, and a cascade of reactions through the whole body. Now, it also, which is a little interesting, it bypasses the thalamus, which would be the part of the brain that is recognition and analysis and intellectualizes what's going on. So when you touch, when you see, when you hear, these senses are processed through the thalamus. So you're going, what's that sound? What's that noise? What's that over here? What am I feeling? What am I touching? What am I seeing? What am I tasting? Scent doesn't do that. It's an immediate response. And the reason for that is because, I did mention this, that the sense of smell is part of your protective mechanism. And when you're out in the world, memory and emotion, every memory, every emotion has a scent. And the reason for that is because it guides you as to what's safe and what is not. And so through your experiences, through your life, the scents that you perceive are triggering, is this safe or is it not safe? It's actually based on, this is as old as it can get, primitive as it can get. It's called chemotaxis. It's what one-celled organisms, it's the sense mechanism for one-celled organisms. Chemo meaning chemical, taxis meaning move. And so you're either moving toward a chemical or you're moving away. If it's safe, you're moving toward. If it's food, sex, whatever, you move towards. If it's dangerous, a poison, toxin, you're moving away. One-celled organism, this is what it's called, chemotaxis. That's basically what your olfactory system is designed for, is to go towards things that are healthy, that you need to live and survive, and to move away from the things that are dangerous and will kill you. Smell of smoke. You didn't know the smell of smoke was dangerous when you first smelled it. It's because it was a learned behavior from your parents or whoever. The smell of smoke, they responded. So you learned that the smell of smoke, and I'm talking about fire smoke, it's dangerous, right? So when you smell smoke, you don't think about it. You don't go, oh man, I know that smell. I know, what is it? What is it? What is it? Oh yeah. That means there's a fire somewhere nearby. By the time you think about it and process it, your house is burning down. So instead of that, not going through the thalamus, it's an immediate response. This is really important to understand because our reactions to scent. So, if you're a esthetician, spa therapist, the products that you use, your guests are having a response to it. If they've been with you before and it's been a comforting, good experience, that scent that you're exposing them to again is going to trigger the emotion of, this is good, I like it, I'm relaxed, right? So every memory, every emotion has a scent, and those scents are processed without going through the thalamus. This is actually one of the reasons why we don't have a language for fragrance. Think about it. What do we have? Rose. Like the smell of rose? What's it smell like? It smells like rose. Well, rose isn't a scent word. Rose is a noun. It's a thing. When I'm talking about fragrancing, I'll use words like sharp. That's a sensory, touch word. Spicy. It's a flavor. Our language comes from our other senses that do go through the thalamus, that are intellectualized. So scent is a very, very special, unique sense organ that is totally underutilized and underestimated on how it affects us. So this is what I want to get into here today, is understanding how we're using our sense of smell. So I want to kind of get back to the triad that I introduced in part 1. And so the Holistic Essential Oil Triad that I've developed here is these categories on how we process or how we can categorize essential oils and how they work. So we think of essential oils as, well, you breathe it in and it's motion, and you put it on and it's physical. And if you're doing chakra balance or chi prana, working with energetic flow, that's energetic or metaphysical is the category that I call it. So what I've done is I look at the way that people are taught about essential oils in the aromatherapy industry and how people are using them. And the thing that I will tell you often is that essential oils are not drugs. So it's not a this oil for that symptom. And not only are they not a this oil for that symptom type thing, they are a holistic response. Every time you use an oil, there's an olfactory response. There's what I'm calling a pharmacological response, which in pharmacology, we're looking at cells and cell receptors, which I mentioned when I talked about the olfactory system, lock and key. And so pharmaceuticals are designed to be a molecule that fits a certain cell receptor, triggers a response, and that's how they work. Again, I'm simplifying things. Essential oils can work in the same way. When you put an essential oil on your skin, like if you're doing a massage, you have receptors in the surface of your skin. So if you get an immediate response from an essential oil, it's not because they penetrate so quickly. Penetration is not something that, there's not a lot of oil in the penetration going into the bloodstream. It happens over a period of time, maybe 20 minutes, right? If you're having an immediate response from a topical use of an essential oil, it's because in a pharmacological way, that molecule is binding with a cell receptor on the skin surface. It's triggering a response that is pretty immediate through the body. The cannabinoids, when you hear about CBD, and CBD put on topically is an anti-inflammatory. The way it works is that molecule binds with a receptor in what's called the endocannabinoid system, which essential oils can also bind to, and it's triggering an anti-inflammatory response through the whole body. So pharmacologically, topically, this is a physical response. The metaphysical, this is like, it's my I don't know category. I don't know it worked. I don't know. So I throw it in the metaphysical category. But metaphysical is also energetic work. I have a friend who does kinesiology, muscle testing, boom, boom, boom. And, he's testing foods, he's testing vitamins, he's testing essential oils. That's an energetic response. I can't explain it. He can't really explain it either, because there's no way to really test that. But it is a metaphysical, energetic response to the oil. Olfactory, as I've been explaining, is a very, very unique and holistic response, because not only are you getting, yes, the emotion and that aspect, but you are getting what would be considered a pharmacological-like response. So these categories cross over. You smell an oil, and this is that neuroscience, neurobiology, right? So the scent is affecting the central nervous system, which can, stop a spasm or other issues through the central nervous system. Autonomic nervous system, digestion, heart rate, respiratory. If you have quick breathing and you want to slow that down, inhale an oil. What that's going to do is it's going to affect the autonomic nervous system, raise parasympathetic activity, and that's going to put you in what's called rest and digest mode. Deeper breathing. So if you're having trouble meditating because you just can't get into that groove, you smell an oil that will help trigger the autonomic nervous system. This is the neurobiology aspect to smelling oils. So these categories, they cross over. The olfactory response is this is the one I find that is really dominant in as far as how we can feel the response to essential oils in actually any scent. Even though I'm talking about essential oils, every fragrance does this. There's, when you talk about synthetics, and, in the aromatherapy world, we really like to say synthetics are horrible, and they are, but they do have therapeutic response. If you love a perfume, if synthetics have been in your life and you've never been exposed to real scents, which are hard to do, but there are people who respond negatively to essential oils because they're just too weird. They don't smell like their synthetic perfume. So people who have a positive relationship with synthetics will have a positive response physiologically when they smell synthetics. So we can't discount synthetics 100%, even though I will. Don't use synthetics, use essential oils, because then you get in the complexity of the oil, the nature, and there's a lot more going on, and there's a lot more positive benefit to essential oils. But the olfactory response through the limbic system can trigger a physiological response. The physiological response, or the pharmacology, is also triggering through the olfactory system, but also responding metaphysically. So these things all go together. So that's my triad explanation, especially focusing on the olfactory system. So let's look at olfactory therapy and using essential oils, of course. So I've already given you my spiel on synthetics. That is no longer going to be talked about. Maybe I'll bring it up again. I don't know. Olfactory therapy and neuroscience therapy. So, same thing. I'm just using, both words because neuroscience is trending now. I think that's kind of cool. Using essential oils, again, you have the complexity. And so the olfactory response is much more complex because you have many molecules, many keys. It's like a janitor with a lot of keys, triggering a lot of responses through the olfactory nerve endings, which is triggering a holistic response, a full body response when you're using essential oils. Now, what I've done is I've listed some of the responses that are happening within the body, especially from the neuroscience aspect of it. Cortisol and stress. So we know, and if we don't know, you're going to know now, that stress causes cortisol release. Cortisol is an inflammatory compound, okay? This came out a lot during the pandemic because part of the negative response to the COVID virus was an inflammatory response in the lungs, which was, cytokines is what was responding, similar to the cortisol causing inflammation. And so this is an inflammatory response. And through the olfactory system, you can reduce that inflammation. There's a lot of research on that. So stress, not good for your body, not good for your skin. Essential oils through olfactory system can help relieve stress. So if you're a therapist and you're formulating your formulas, skincare or massage or whatever you're using in your therapeutic application, you can create a formula that's going to help reduce the stress. This is where you want to know what people are dealing with so you can formulate for that person. This is when you get really personalized. It's incredible the work you can do. Immunity, and I'm focusing on the NK cells here because forest bathing is a practice that's been going on in Japan for years, and it's become popularized really globally. And hinoki trees are the ones that are in the Japanese forest. And so they did an experiment. Is it the forest itself, or is it what they call phytoncides, which is just a horrible name for the things that are evaporating from the trees. The reason I don't like phytoncides is because phyto is plant, that's cool, but sides is poison. Because these plant, the things that evaporate from the plant, which we call essential oils once we distill them, they were first recognized as a protection for the plant, killing parasites and whatnot. So yeah, poison, great. But we're going to call them essential oils now. So the essential oils are evaporating in the environment. Anytime you smell a plant, it's the volatile compounds evaporating from the plant. And when it can be extracted, that's what we call essential oil. So what they do is they took some people as an experiment, used hinoki essential oil and diffused that in the room and found it had the same effect as forest bathing, which was reducing stress, depression, supporting, happy, positive mood, and also boosting the immune system. Specifically in these studies, it was the NK cells, natural killer cells. The other thing that, and I put some citations here. I had many more, but I just wanted to, appear, like I've got proof. And the proof it's been working with me for over 30 years. And, but lots of good studies on it. Heart, breath, digestion. So again, I mentioned the autonomic nervous system, which autonomic nervous system is it's the control of heart rate, respiratory, and digestion. So if through the olfactory system, you're affecting these and you know which oils to choose, then you can control high blood pressure or, heart rate, that quickened heart due to fight or flight, shortened breath due to fight or flight, and that freezed up digestion where the digestive system is not functioning properly because of stress or fight or flight. Breathing in a really nice oil works through the autonomic nervous system. It can balance heart rate, respiratory, and digestion. Pain perception. You would think that it would have to be topical, and mostly if you're dealing with pain, yes, you want to do topical. But through olfactory, through the olfactory system, again, central nervous system mainly, but it does have a response in the pain receptors. So even through inhalation. So if you're putting something on topically, you can't avoid smelling it, and so it works. Pain receptors. So inhalation measurably alters body systems. And I basically just talked about that when I talked about heart, breath, and digestion. But also skin, because stress is not good for the skin. And it's actually been shown that people under high stress, it affects the lipid barrier, because the lipid barrier is formed through the epidermis. And certain molecules are formed in each stage, and stress can interfere with the full development of your lipid barrier. And that's why, people with acneic skin conditions, which is basically due to inflammation and stress, and atopic dermatitis, mostly eczema, can be inflamed during stressful situations. And so inhaling the oil can help correct that. But then the beauty of essential oils is you have topical, which is the pharmacological aspect. Putting it on topically, you have the cell regeneration and the repair. And combined with the olfactory response, while you're putting it on, you have regulating the autonomic central nervous system and lipid barrier protection. It's a beautiful thing. Don't you love it? Let's look at scent, memory, emotion bond, because this is something that you can do not only as creating that environment, like I talked about, a spa environment. So if they're in there and everything's relaxing and it's really beautiful and awesome and incredible, what's going to happen here is you're creating a scent memory bond with that relaxation environment. And so with control and selling retail, it's the beauty of selling retail. If you have especially signature fragrance in your formulas that you send people home with, that every time they use their skincare, that relaxation, that memory of being with you is going to be triggered. And that's going to not only increase retail sales, but also increase client retention, those repeat visits. So in the scent memory bond, what we have is emotional recall, which is, I basically just talked about that. People take home your products, they're using them, they're looking in the mirror and they're going, oh man, that experience was so good. That's an emotional recall. It's not just a memory recall, because you want emotion to be the factor that's going to draw people back, because that's really what it is anyway. If you make their skin look incredible, it's great as just the physical, my skin looks so good, but it's the emotion of the skin looking good that's going to trigger the response of returning and feeling good about your therapeutic work. Attachment and imprinting. This is when, we hear this as in olfactory research, right? A newborn baby knows their mother through scent. There's an attachment. There's a scent attachment. And if you've had children, you know how your baby smells. There's been a lot of studies done on that scent recognition. Even your mate, right? So in your relationships, there's a scent bond. There's an attachment there. There's an interesting thing in who we're attracted to, and from a biological perspective, it's based on reproductive, because we're basically here to eat to stay alive and to reproduce to keep the species going. That's kind of the biology of every living species. And so what's triggered in creating a stronger offspring is, it's called the histocompatibility complex. And so when you're attracted to, and this is opposite sex, of course, when you're attracted on that level, it's generally because that person has different immune antibodies, that they've had different illnesses. And so the offspring is going to get that immunity from both parents, and that's going to create a stronger offspring. The way you recognize that is through that scent attraction, and you don't always recognize it. And it might not be the person who's socially and intellectually or the person that you can stand being with after sex. That's the weird thing about this, because biology doesn't care about our lifestyle. It wasn't here, wasn't invented, was before our lifestyle happened. So, but this is, if you have that attraction, then it's being triggered. Now, I did say, opposite sex. There is documentation showing that, same-sex attraction is being triggered by the same responses in the brain. And so there is an attachment that, for same-sex, couples through scent. And, it's been shown that it's the attraction, heterosexual people, and then, the people that are same sex, the triggers in the brain are the same. So, it's feels good, basically what it is, but it's all through the olfactory response. That's where the attachment, that's where the imprint comes. Long-term anchors. This again is just, we have the initial attachment, that then there's the attraction for lifelong. And this is part of that memory emotion. When you walk into a room, especially if it's a parent's house that you grew up in, there is that long-term anchor. You may not smell, because, mostly we don't smell our own homes. And when you go into that, there is that anchor. There is the feeling, whatever your upbringing was. And, so if it was a healthy home life, it's going to be a positive. If it was a negative home life, then you're going to feel that anxiety. And so, scent is one of the strongest anchors, even though we may not recognize it. We do not pay attention to it. So what I recommend is every day, all day, from now on, pay attention to your scent environment. Pay attention to what's going on around you, your surroundings. How do you feel? And then pay attention to the odors that are in the atmosphere. And so from therapy, and this is when you're doing therapeutic work, your environment, whatever it is, you're creating a client connection, a guest connection with the people that are coming there. And so instead of letting it be random, control the scent environment. So let's look at behavior patterning. This is something that I use a lot in my therapeutic work. I don't do a lot of clinical work anymore, but it's, when I do one-on-one, this is something that I pay attention to all the time, behavior patterning. So the way this works is that scent has to do with motivation. If you walk into your home and your mate has been cooking for you and you start smelling that food, it triggers the motivation of food. I'm hungry. That's a pretty obvious one, right? But a lot of times scent is about a motivator. It helps to give us more energy. It helps us to focus. It does a lot of different patterns, behavior patterns, that again, instead of letting them be random, you can control. Scent is a therapeutic tool. Okay, that's why I started with that slide, because that's everything I'm talking about here. Response anchoring. So I talked about anchoring, and this is, and I mentioned this already with, creating that environment, creating signature fragrances, or just control fragrances with the products that you do use, sending your clients home. You're creating a response, and you're creating an anchoring with that response, with that product. Okay. So don't let it be random. Again, you're in control. And then, scent can reset a behavioral response. This is the behavior pattern. So this, why do I have this graphic up there? Woman, kind of meditating in the middle of chaos. And this is part of behavioral patterning. So if you've got a job and it's always chaotic and you kind of get into that mess with everyone else, and it's hard to stay focused in that way. I mean, sometimes it's cool if that's the groove and the mood that you like, and that's motivating for you. Yeah, you want to do that. But if it causes kind of inner conflict, if you have a scent, essential oil scent, and you've created an imprint, an anchoring imprint with that oil where you're calm and relaxed, and you do it, generally meditation is the way to do it. And this is what you can feel like in the midst of all this chaos. You smell that oil, you can be in that groove and be motivated and be, kind of stay with the speed, but you're going to feel centered. You're going to feel grounded. You're going to feel like you're meditating in the midst of all the chaos. It's very cool. Now, what we want to do is look at how to create that environment. So here's how that works. Scented behavior modification. I like to call it behavior modification because what I'm working on is bad habits. And what you're doing is what I just mentioned, action paired with an intention. Intention is a powerful tool, okay? I'm going to talk about that coming up. Intention is a powerful tool. So what I do, and here's basically how I do it. I create a blend, right? So I have a signature blend here. I created this for it's not a spa, it's a healing clinic. And, I talked about what he wants, what he feels, what is his environment like, what's the message, what is the intention of the business. And so I created a fragrance centered around that. Now, if I were working one-on-one with that client, and if someone came to me and they smoke or they overeat or they tend to get angry easily, I want to create a new behavior. I want to stop that bad habit. And so the way I'm doing it, and this is where I mentioned spa rituals and using scent, which can shape post-treatment behavior. This is in a way, this is what I'm talking about, right? So with intention, even as doing facials, if you use the right language and you're sending the client home with these products, you can help change bad habits. So let's say, someone gets angry easily. In my one-on-ones, I'll have them get in a relaxed state, maybe meditate, maybe not, but just get in that really, really relaxed state. And they need to be in that state. And I may not let them smell the oil in the first, even the second session. I want to make sure they're really relaxed. And then what I do is once I know they're in a relaxed state, they haven't smelled the blend yet. I let them smell the blend. And what it does is creating an emotion memory bond with that scent in a relaxed state. Now, I like to do that 6-10 times, when I feel like it's been done. So I'm creating a behavior modification. I'm trying to change their behavior through an emotion memory scent bond. Now, the essential oils, of course, are going to have the properties that would also do that, reducing fight or flight. So we're talking about anger, reducing fight or flight, calming the central nervous system, all the things where we're trying to prevent an anger response. We're trying to help the person to be aware that they're going into an anger response so they can control it. I don't want it to be an intense, I do working with someone who's trying to lose weight. And, if they're in the store and they want that food so bad, I don't want to create a negative response around that. And so here's the trick, right? So you're going to get angry. You're going for the food, smoking a cigarette, whatever it is. You have this and you reach into your pocket. So now what we're doing is we're doing what's called the interrupt. Reaching into the pocket, pulling the blend out, taking the cap off, smelling it, and closing your eyes and feeling the imprint that we've made, the meditation, the calming, the relaxing. So this is what behavior modification is all about. You're creating a mood, you're setting a mood, you're using a scent memory bond to change behavior patterns. This is what I help teach therapists. So, when I come out to spas or I hate to teach online, but it seems to happen a lot. But, if you've got especially if you have a resort in Bali or someplace like that, yes, I can come out to you, excuse me, and train your staff. And I can actually do one-on-ones while I'm there, so, working with your clients in this patterning that I just explained. And so in creating this environment, what I train the staff is how to either use the products that you have or how to create. So if you really want to get into learning about essential oils, I can show you how to blend making the blends therapeutic, and then working on behavior modification in the context that you work with. So you may not have the meditation and all that, but in your therapeutic work, if you're a massage therapist, if you're an esthetician, whatever it is your work is, you are the therapist. When I talk about working with essential oils, these essential oils are yours. And the analogy I've just started using is that the essential oils are the car. I'm the driver's manual. But once you're in that car and have read the manual, these are yours. You make them fit your therapeutic work. You make them fit who you are, because you're the driver. You're the one that's kind of creating the experience with your clients. That photograph, I guess I should explain. What is that? This was a spa I worked with in, where was it? Shanghai. And this was still the setup. It wasn't finished yet. So we were kind of creating a bond and the behavior modification, because we had products that they would take home. I created some chakra blends that they would use in the therapy. And in those vessels, which are actually oil separators is what they are, but they're so cool for putting oil, vegetable oil in and releasing it. I actually designed different colors. Somehow I managed to get a green and a yellow in the vegetable oil. So that was the base. And it creates not only a scent bond, but also a visual bond of an intention. So we're creating an intention which has to go along with this. Here's verbal cues and intention, which is, such timing when I mention intention. These are product names that I created. I have Deeper Sleeper. What do you think that's going to do? Right? Deeper Sleeper. What's that do? Yeah, of course. Deeper Sleeper is going to be good for people who need to sleep, right? Want to get a good night's sleep. The intention is on the label. When I'm giving this to someone as a therapist or one-on-one, what I'm doing is I'm also verbally creating a response, because verbal cues, and they're called olfactory verbal cues. This is the example I generally give for that. In a study, they wanted to, see how verbal cues would work. So they took an essential oil and they had a group of people. They said, this is a calming oil. And 100% after the people smelled the oil, through skin conductivity, brainwave readings, 100% everyone was calm. They wanted to try a stimulating oil. So the group of people, here's a stimulating essential oil. They smelled it. Response, 100% stimulated. Both oils were lavender. So is lavender calming or is it energizing? Well, it's both. Either that or it's, a bunch of BS, right? It's just placebo. The essential oils don't do anything. But no. This is not changing what we know about essential oils. What this is doing is it's giving us another therapeutic level to how to use essential oils. Our intention, the verbal cues that we give to people. So no matter what your practice is, whether you're using essential oils or not, and this is even beyond just scent, how you express your therapy, telling the person what to expect. This is part of the healing process, right? It's mind-body healing. With the olfactory verbal cues, it just puts an imprint. It makes it even more powerful. So what's Deeper Sleeper going to do? The verbal cue is it's going to help you sleep. The other one, Optimistic Glow. How cool is that? I could use a little optimism and I could use a little glow. It's a good title. Now, the scent should match what your intention is, what the topic is, what the name of the product is, which you see a lot in perfumery. You ever notice the ads are creating an emotion, a visual emotion? And in a way, it's creating a verbal cue so that when you smell it, you have that intention of what they're trying to sell you, creating a feeling, creating a mood, creating a you spray it on and whatever it was, you got it, right? Because you got that verbal cue. You have that intention along with the scent imprint. Now, scent can also carry a message, right? So like I said, the fragrance of what you're doing should smell like the product that you're doing. I have a pain formula and it has does it have any menthol? I don't have any menthol in it. I have methyl salicylate, which is wintergreen. Methyl salicylate is a compound, isolated compound that used a lot in over-the-counter pain remedies. So the association from that scent, I'm making it smell like, all those vapor rubs and stuff like that. And mine smells 100% better. But it does have that element. If you want something for viral infections and respiratory congestion, what should it smell like? What do you think? It should smell, I don't know, maybe like eucalyptus, because we're familiar with eucalyptus. We're familiar with that feeling that eucalyptus creates. So the association of the scent should match what your verbal cue is, what your intention is. So optimistic glow, there's no oil like those other examples that are so obvious. So optimistic glow, it has a little heat to it. It has a little spice to it, but at the same time, it has, florals surrounding it. So I'm creating an idea and an intention through the fragrance. And what that's doing is it's creating the feeling and the identity of having an optimistic glow. So your scent should carry the message. Skin. I already mentioned that stress can compromise the lipid barrier, but scent or stress also through the central nervous system and autonomic nervous system can disrupt cellular regeneration and just in general can compromise healthy skin. And so reducing stress is very important if you want to have healthy skin. You can do that with the essential oils, stress relieving and all those things. But you really want to go a little further than that. And so you want to make sure that your skincare reflects an emotional state, right? Now, we're doing this, skin reflects the emotional state, your emotional state, right? Through, like I said, barrier function, the inflammation. But your scent can also reflect an emotion that calms the nervous system. And this, again, is your skincare, what you're putting right near your nose, right? So what you want to do is you want to create your scent identity with relaxation. So as it's put on, it's going to create, reduce stress, which is going to be good for the skin. And then your skincare should also be good for the skin. Plant-based skincare is amazing. Now, the essential oil scent can regulate emotional stress, which is what I'm saying. So you can personalize that for the individual. And then also for the skin condition. Now, here's plant-based biophilic skincare. So I mentioned forest bathing. As forest bathing became popularized, so did the term biophilia. What biophilia refers to is, this is E.O. Wilson, a biologist, who popularized that term in biology as our genetic coding and our genetic desire to be with and in nature and with living things. I started doing plant-based skincare way before it became trendy. And it was a difficult sell because people weren't used to the color of real plant-based skincare. If your skincare is white, even if it's plant-based, they took all the good stuff out. So you do not want to have white skincare. Your skincare should mimic the natural color of whatever plant-based ingredients you're using. And so that color triggers a biophilic response, a nature connection response. The essential oils being from nature trigger a biophilic response. So what is the biophilic response? Like I said about forest bathing, reduces stress, reduces depression, strengthens the immune system. So your plant-based skincare not only is the best thing for your skin, and the way I relate that is, the best things for your skin are, your diet. I live out here in Seattle, and I was total vegetarian until I moved here, and I started eating fish, which was mostly salmon and halibut. It's called Seattletarian. And so it's just out here, it has the best face food, right? You have lots of berries and greens and salmon. And so the best thing for your skin topically are the things that are the best foods, which internally diet are best for your skin. So take some salmon, take some berries, take some greens, put it in a blender, get it all ground up, and take that and put it on your face, but that would be totally disgusting. So instead of doing that, I actually have plant-based skincare that I make that mimics the compounds that are from salmon, which is the red algae, astaxanthin. I use berry seed oils, and I use tinctures from herbals, and then the essential oils. So the plant-based skincare is going to have a biophilic response. Not only is it incredibly therapeutic, but it's going to have that emotional nature connection. So plant-based skincare is really good for you. Reducing stress reduction is good for your skin. The regenerative properties of all the plant-based ingredients, good for your skin. I mean, so why not, right? Now, here's where the triad becomes a link, okay? From plant-based skincare. You have the olfactory response, right? So I'm calling it neuro-emotion, but that's, neurobiological, and the emotional connection. Pharmacologically, plant-based ingredients, cell receptors, right? Topically, but cell regeneration, helichrysum, an essential oil, heals wounds in an amazing way. And there's a lot of plant-based skincare that, plant-based ingredients, calendula would be one of them that's pretty popular, but lots of ingredients from the plant are extremely good for your skin. Antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. What the skin needs is it needs anti-inflammatories, and it needs antioxidants and cell regeneration. You get that from your plant-based skincare. So that's the pharmacological response. And then metaphysically, energetically, life force, however you want to phrase it, things coming from nature are going to have that, quantum mechanic connection. If you're not familiar with quantum mechanics, it's that level beneath the surface. It's the other side of the wall is what I like to call it. It's where the metaphysics and the energetics really can be explained a little bit easier. So your plant-based skincare, biophilic, it's amazing. It's going to have the olfactory response, the pharmacological response, and the metaphysical response. And at the same time, you're creating a biophilic scent environment. Biophilic scent design is something that I've started promoting. I actually have a course coming out with Habit Harmonia, and I'm not sure when that's going to be released. I think sometime in June or after June. And, it's biophilic scent design. Basically, it's essential oils. Essential oils are biophilic. If you're diffusing essential oils in the air, you're creating that nature connection, the emotion, everything that goes along with it, immune stimulation. And that's not even including the therapeutic properties of your essential oils. So biophilic scent design, this is something I'm doing. I was just talking about doing that for a spa. And it was a spa, it was a wellness center. It has a lot of the new tech kind of stuff, right? And what we're doing is I'm creating, he's an indoor environment, and I'm creating a really strong biophilic atmosphere, because what I'm using are trees. He's in Eastern Washington, similar to trees that I have out here in Seattle. And so I'm using a lot of the tree essences that are in that environment. So I'm creating an indoor environment, biophilic environment, using this signature fragrance. I'm going to get to questions in a couple minutes here. So spa application, scent is ritual, reset, reinforcement. I mean, these are all the things that I've been talking about. And so depending on how you're doing your therapy, inhalation, topical, energy points, rituals, right? Rituals are incredible. And, I know there's some skincare, and I'm actually going to promote this brand, even though I've never experienced, but UMM, Noel you're on here, right, Noel? I'm going to be working with Noel in a week, doing a live client analysis. So my next live course is going to be on May 19th at the same time, 9 a.m., and I'm going to be doing a live client analysis and a real-time formulation. So I'm going to pretty much explain in real time, showing you, demonstrating how I do that on May 19th. But yeah, so anyway, the skincare line it's all about ritual. And rituals are so important because rituals are intention. Intention is a powerful therapeutic tool. When you combine that with the scent emotion bond, yeah, you've got something going on, right? All right, so spa application, scent is ritual, reset. You're trying to take people in that, chaotic world that we live in, and you want to give them a reset, but you make sure you send them home with that reset. You want to create that scent bond that they can take home. And even if it's skincare application, they're doing it every day anyway, right? So you should be the one driving that car. They shouldn't go be buying whatever they want anywhere they want. You want to make sure that you're continuing your therapeutic practice at home with that guest. So in the spa environment, you could do inhalations before. There's a lot of limited ways that I think spa therapists right now are using essential oils, putting, on a little cotton pad and let them smell it before. There's so much more you can do, with the essential oils. You want to have blends. If you don't have signature blends, you want to have different blends like that optimistic glow. Does the person need to be more optimistic? I have a blend called Calm and Easy. What do you think that does? Calm and Easy. That might be what they need. And they might need a deep breath, but just eucalyptus is kind of boring. I have a formula I call Breathe. What do you think that does? But it has more complexity to it. It has more dance going on. I'm creating an intention. I'm creating a ritual. I'm doing it through inhalation and the emotion, memory, scent bond. So you do that, generally at the start, and you can have something in the middle, so if you work with gems or, any kind of stones, anything like that, you can incorporate your scent, and you could do like a series. You could create kind of a movement. You can create a story. I love creating stories with essential oils. And this is what I could train you guys to do. So, again, this is what I do. I can come to your spa, and I'm actually going to start giving a kit away with any time that I do courses for people. I don't have that on my website yet. But yeah, I'll do it. So if you don't see it, ask me. I say, oh yeah, of course, I give you a kit to go along with that. So again, I'm going to repeat this: send clients home with the scent. Send it home. You want to send them home with products anyway, because you need to continue your work when you're not there. And the way to do it is by sending them home with the products that you have. Okay, so that's my scent story. And there's so much more that can be explained when it comes to olfactory therapy, neuroscience through the olfactory therapy, and the essential oils as a major player in your work with olfactory therapy. It's my website. You can come on there and let me see. I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to come full stage for you here so I can get to some questions. This is, if you want to find me and you don't want to go to my website, you can email me. If you're on LinkedIn, you can DM me. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and press all those buttons they tell you to press, subscribe, like me, and whatever else you're supposed to do. But go ahead and do it, because I'm there on YouTube along with the LinkedIn Live. I'll be back again on May 19th. So let me go and see if anyone's asking me anything that they need to know. I better do this. Let me see. Ooh, Catalina, hi. Can you heal trauma with specific scent? Not specific scent, but absolutely you can heal trauma. That's a little more, it's a little more involved, but yes, when I was talking about behavior modification, it's done in that same way. So you create a positive environment, and this can be done through skincare. This is what I love about skincare, is that skincare is something that everyone's going to do every day anyway. So if you put that formula, if you create one, like my way of doing it is always personalized, because I know essential oils. And again, May 19th, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you how I do this. And you put together the right oils. If they tend to be in a lot of fight or flight, you use oils. Virginia cedarwood, which the plant name is Juniperus virginiana, has a compound in it called cedrol. And what cedrol does is it lowers the fight or flight response, raises parasympathetic activity. So trauma triggers fight or flight. And so this is the way you can work with trauma, but it's a little more involved. It's a little more, it's good to be a therapist to do it, but you can, essential oils are just powerful. And with the right intention, with the right verbal cues, with all of the system that I talked about, definitely you can heal trauma. What else you got going on here? Let me see. It's not showing me all of my. It's not showing me all. Let me see. Hi, Catalina. Nice to put you up there. Lavender. Someone sent me a message. So you didn't mention lavender. Did I mention lavender? I should have. So this is the thing I talked about with rose. Okay. Lavender can help calm, but yeah, if they have a traumatic experience with the lavender, yeah, that's what's going to happen. Can you change that? Yes, but you really need to know what you're doing in order to do that. And so there's so many different ways to work with essential oils. Or any other? Yeah. So this is my recommendation for working with essential oils for trauma. Same way I talked about working with the behavioral modifications. This is what you're doing, but this really is a little more involved, especially when it's an extreme trauma. So I mentioned, that's basically what I talked about when I talked about the woman who had to leave the room every time rose oil went around. And so there was some kind of trauma. There was some anxiety, because if it was just, I don't like that, she just would have gone, ew, rose, I hate it, right? We all have that. We have oils or fragrances that we don't like, but we don't get all fight or flighty about it and have to leave the room. So when there's anxiety associated with a fragrance, you can change that, but that also takes a very specific therapeutic practice in order to change that. And I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a medical doctor. I should have done the disclaimer that, everything I say is actually a joke, and it's, what's the other part of it? I'm doing it for entertainment purposes. I'm not a medical doctor. If you have any issues, go to your medical practitioner. So that's my disclaimer. But I'm not any of those, but I can and have helped people through olfactory therapy. And I'm not doing it as a psychologist. I'm not doing it as a psychiatrist. I'm not doing it as a medical doctor. I'm doing it because I understand the olfactory system and I understand how essential oils work. So I'm not even trying to explain to a person what I'm doing, because I don't have to. Again, I can do this through skincare, something that people use every day. This is what's great about spa therapists. You're creating a relaxation. You're creating the perfect environment to help people with trauma, anxiety, and PTSD. So as you're doing your treatments and as you're putting these aromas on their skin, you're sending them home and they're repeating that. Now, most people don't think anxiety and skincare go together. So if they're having an anxious moment, whatever the response is, whatever that PTSD is, whatever's triggering it, they don't have their skincare going, oh, my skincare is going to help me get over this, right? No, that's not the way it works. But you can give them certain treatments that do work, like a hydrosol. And so what's more refreshing than a hydrosol? Now, if I'm going to give somebody a formula that's good for their anxiety, but I'm not a psychologist, psychiatrist, or any of those practitioners, I'm not going to tell the person that when you're feeling anxious, spray this and it'll calm you down. No, what I'm going to do is I'm saying, whenever you're feeling anxious, whenever you're getting into that fight or flight response, take your toner and just give yourself a nice cool mist, because it'll feel good on your skin. It'll feel refreshing. So refreshing and cool, these are nice relaxing terms, right? So I'm not giving them any kind of medical terms that they're working with. I'm just giving them what I want to, how I want their response to be. This is cool, refreshing, and relaxing. We did it in the spa treatment. It felt really good. And just think about how relaxing that was. And so this is how you want to work with essential oils, when you're not a psychologist, when you're not a psychiatrist, because you don't have to use all that stuff. Everything is daily. Everything is what you want to do. Do I have any other stuff? Okay, I think I'm done. Ayurvedic ritual. Show me this. Ritual putting essential oils into their belly button. I'm not familiar with it, but that might be part of the ritual. You guys putting things into the belly button? This is part of the what I would call metaphysical use of essential oil. And whatever the ritual is, it's part of an intention. Now, what's in the belly button? I'm sure there's a lot of nerve endings there. I'm sure there's a lot of receptors. So if you're putting an essential oil into the belly button, you're likely creating a response from connectors. I'm not sure, because when it comes to traditional Chinese medicine and also Ayurveda, so you have the marmas in Ayurveda, you have the pressure points, acupoints in the Chinese medicine. That's part of the metaphysical use of how this is responding. But there has been, and again, I'm not clear on this, and I don't know if I'm being accurate, but I'm going to, take a guess and go, likely there are, a congregation of receptors in these points that just putting the pressure on it is going to trigger a full body response. And through, thousands of years of Ayurveda and TCM, these points have been discovered to have certain responses. So I don't know that practice, but I'm going to venture that absolutely, as a someone who really understands that, they're going to get a great response from how that works. Let me see. Let me go and hide these things again. What else we got? Anybody else want to talk to me? I'm always up for talking. Thank you guys, Ina, Catalina. I really appreciate you guys being here. Shalena, everyone's here. Patricia, I thought you weren't going to be here. Noel. All right, I'm going to go. I want you to contact me, because I love to hear from you. I want to know, some responses, any ideas, anything like that. If you have any suggestions for some of these live streams, I'm going to be doing at least one a week. Eventually, I'll probably bump it up to maybe two, but at least one a week. Next one is May 19th, and I'll be doing a live analysis, and then I'll also be doing a real-time formulation. I am going to show you the whole process, and I'm going to be using my outside inside out method, which this holistic essential oil triad is nothing new. The outside inside out method is nothing new. What I've done is I've just kind of taken it and squeezed it into a tighter package that's also much bigger, because beauty inside out is what we generally refer to. And yes, stress inside, bad diet, when it comes outside, it's going to look bad on your skin. But when we talk outside, inside out, we need to look out here. And then we need to know how the person internalizes outside information. That's what's really important, because the same things that people are responding to, or, in their environment, whether it's, allergies, stuff like that. Some people are allergic, some people are not. It's how we internalize the outside environment. We're going to be doing that in this May 19th talk. And I just love you guys. So hope to see you again next time. Do contact me. And YouTube people, hit that subscribe and like button. DM me and bring me out to your resort and spa, especially if you're in Bali, Dubai. Where else in the world do I want to go? I want to go everywhere. And I want to come out and see you. So love you guys. Have a good one. Thank you.